The night air hangs softly over the ancient hills of Italy, and as we drift backward in time, we find ourselves gliding above a land that breathes with mystery. Beneath the silver light of the moon lies a region once called Etruria, stretching between the blue waters of the Tyrrhenian Sea and the rolling plains of the Tiber River. The hills are gentle and fertile, shaped by rivers that whisper through oak forests, and valleys touched by the scent of wild herbs. It is here, many centuries before Rome rose to power, that the story of the Etruscans begins. No one knows exactly where these people came from. Ancient writers puzzled over it just as historians do today. Herodotus, the Greek historian, believed they sailed from Lydia, a region in western Anatolia, the land we now call Turkey. According to his tale, a great famine forced part of the Lydian people to take to the sea, led by their prince Tyrrhenus in search of a new home. They landed on the Italian coast, and from him they took the name Tyrrhenians, a word that the Greeks used for centuries. But another story told by the Roman historian Livy insisted the Etruscans were children of Italy itself, born from the soil they tilled, nurtured by the rivers that ran through their fields. Modern archaeology still debates this question. The evidence of language, art, and burial practices reveals influences from the Aegean, yet also deeply local roots. Perhaps the truth is both, a mingling of newcomers and natives creating something unique, a culture both familiar and strange. As the dawn rises over Etruria, you can almost imagine their first settlements emerging from the mist. The villages are small clusters of huts, built on defensible hilltops, made of wood and clay, their roofs thatched with reeds. Over generations these grow into towns, Tarquinia, Veii, Cerveteri, Volterra, Perugia, names that would later echo through Roman legends. Each hilltop city becomes a world unto itself, yet bound by shared customs, religion, and art. Together they form the Etruscan League, 12 powerful cities loosely united in culture, though each fiercely independent. Their world is one of quiet abundance. The land is rich, volcanic soil yields grapes, olives, and grain. Their herds graze across the meadows and the rivers teem with fish. But beneath the surface lies their greatest treasure, veins of iron and copper, glinting in the dark heart of the earth. These metals make the Etruscans wealthy beyond their neighbors. With bronze and iron they forge tools, weapons, and ornaments, trading them across the Mediterranean. Ships from Etruria glide across the sea, their sails catching the dawn, laden with wine, pottery, and metalwork, bound for the ports of Greece, Carthage, and Egypt. The Etruscans are not only traders but craftsmen of remarkable skill. Their pottery gleams with black and red designs, sometimes imitating Greek styles, yet often imbued with their own flair. The figures on their vases are lively and human. Banquets, dances, musicians, and processions that reveal a people who celebrate life as much as they revere the gods. Even in their art, there is an earthy warmth, a sense of joy and movement, of laughter shared in candlelight. At the heart of their culture lies a profound spirituality. The Etruscans believe the universe is filled with divine will, that every flash of lightning, every flight of a bird, carries a message from the gods. They study the skies, the entrails of animals, and the signs in the earth, reading the patterns of fate with solemn care. This system of divination, called haruspicy, shapes their rituals, guiding when to plant crops, when to march to war, when to build temples. Their priests, known as haruspices, become revered figures, interpreters of the divine language that lies hidden behind natural events. Their gods are many but not distant. The Etruscans believe in a layered cosmos, the world of men beneath the heavens of the gods and above the dark underworld. Deities like Tinia, Uni, and Minerva, later adopted by the Romans as Jupiter, Juno, and Minerva, dwell in this celestial order. But beyond these great gods are countless spirits of place and ancestry, protectors of homes, fields, and tombs. Religion for the Etruscans is not confined to temples. It lives in every corner of daily life, in the smoke rising from kitchen hearths and the whispering of the wind through olive trees. Let your mind wander now through an Etruscan town at dusk. The streets are narrow and cobbled, winding between stone houses with painted walls. From open doorways comes the scent of bread and roasted herbs. Lanterns flicker as families gather for evening meals, reclining on couches, sharing food, stories, and laughter. Music fills the air, the soft tones of a flute, the gentle rhythm of a lyre. Outside the city, tombs are carved into the hillside, their entrances framed with columns and painted reliefs, as if to mimic the homes of the living. To the Etruscans, death is not an end but a continuation, another journey guided by ancestral spirits. As centuries pass, their towns grow into cities of stone and clay brick. They drain marshes, build roads, and carve elaborate drainage systems, showing a mastery of engineering that would later inspire the Romans themselves. In their architecture, we see the first hints of what would become classical design: sturdy columns, arched gateways, and symmetrical layouts. The Etruscan temple, raised upon a high podium with deep porches and triple cella, is the ancestor of Rome's great temples. Its painted terracotta statues, like the famous Apollo of Veii, still seem to stride forward with life and grace, even after 25 centuries. Trade brings new ideas and materials, and with them, a cosmopolitan spirit. From the Greeks, they learn myth and artistry; from the Phoenicians, seafaring and commerce; from the Celts, metals and ornaments. Yet what the Etruscans absorb, they make their own. Their language, written in an alphabet derived from Greek, remains a mystery even today, only partially understood. It sounds whispering across time like a lost melody. Their society is complex and surprisingly refined. Women in Etruria enjoy freedoms that shock Greek observers. They attend banquets, own property, and are depicted side by side with men, smiling, confident, and adorned with jewelry. Their names appear on tomb inscriptions, their images preserved in painted frescoes. In the tomb of the leopards at Tarquinia, couples recline together beneath painted scenes of feasting, dancers moving in vivid rhythm. It is a vision of joy, equality, and artistic grace, a civilization unafraid to celebrate both life and death. As night deepens, let us pause among these ancient hills. Listen to the faint hum of the sea against the Etruscan coast, where lanterns flicker on distant ships. Imagine the sound of hammers on bronze, the chatter of markets, the prayers whispered before dawn. The Etruscans stand between worlds, heirs to the East, neighbors to the Greeks, teachers to the Romans. Their origins may remain veiled, but their spirit endures, patient, enigmatic, and eternal. And as we drift toward the next chapter, we carry their image with us, the builders of the first true cities of Italy, whose art, language, and faith laid the unseen foundations for all that would follow. As we drift further into the ancient world, the soft veil of time begins to lift, revealing Etruria at the height of its glory. The morning sun spills gently across the green hills and terraced vineyards. The horizon shimmers, framed by distant mountains, while the scent of laurel and olive trees fills the air. From the sea to the inland valleys, the land hums with quiet industry, the hum of tools against stone, the lowing of cattle, and the rhythmic sound of ships being built along the coast. This is the Etruscan age of cities, a time when hilltop villages have grown into proud centers of art, faith, and power. Each city, surrounded by sturdy walls of tufa stone, stands like a self-contained world. There is Tarquinia, overlooking the blue expanse of the Tyrrhenian Sea, known for its tombs and painters. Veii, close to the rising city of Rome, glows with its bronze workshops and sacred temples. Cerveteri flourishes as a trading hub, its roads leading straight to the coast where Etruscan merchants exchange goods with sailors from Greece and Phoenicia. Inland lie Volterra and Perugia, cities of strong stone fortresses, built high upon their plateaus to command the valleys below. Each one is independent, ruled by its own leaders, guided by its own priests, yet bound together by shared language, rituals, and a reverence for the divine. The Etruscan League, known in Latin as the Dodecapolis, connects 12 of these city-states. It is not a political empire but a sacred and cultural alliance, a gathering of equals who meet once a year at the Fanum Voltumni, the central sanctuary dedicated to the god Voltumna, guardian of Etruria's destiny. There, surrounded by groves and altars, the leaders and priests of each city hold councils, perform rituals, and celebrate festivals. The air is filled with the smell of incense and the distant echo of trumpets. This assembly embodies the heart of Etruscan unity, spiritual rather than imperial, harmonious yet fragile. Let us step now into one of these cities, perhaps Cerveteri at midday. The streets are alive with activity. Traders call out their wares, amphorae filled with olive oil, baskets of figs and grain, bronze mirrors, and carved jewelry gleaming in the sun. Children play near fountains while artisans work beneath shaded porticos. The rhythm of life feels steady, almost musical, a balance between labor and leisure. Beneath the surface, beneath the chatter and laughter, there is always the deep presence of the sacred. Every act, from planting seeds to lighting lamps, carries ritual weight. The Etruscans believe that the will of the gods shapes every outcome. To live well is to live in harmony with that unseen order. Their priests, the haruspices, continue to read the signs of nature, lightning, bird flight, and even the entrails of sacrificed animals, decoding divine messages with precision. Their interpretations guide public decisions, from construction to warfare. It is said that no Etruscan leader would dare act without first consulting the gods. The rituals are solemn yet serene, performed with reverence rather than fear. Even now, as you imagine the quiet flicker of sacred fires and the murmured prayers beneath cypress trees, there is a tranquility in their faith, a belief that the universe itself is orderly, that everything unfolds in divine rhythm. Art and architecture bloom in this atmosphere of devotion. The cities glow with painted temples, their roofs crowned with terracotta figures. The walls of their tombs tell stories not of dread, but of celebration, feasts, dances, and gentle embraces. The tomb of the augurs, for example, shows two men in ceremonial robes, their gestures formal yet graceful. The paintings breathe with color, ochre, red, black, and blue, each hue chosen with care to echo the eternal cycle of life and death. Even the afterlife, in Etruscan thought, mirrors the world of the living, full of music, wine, and companionship. As we wander through these painted chambers in our imagination, we glimpse not sadness but acceptance. Death, for the Etruscans, is another passage, another banquet in the great continuity of existence. Their tombs are not dark prisons but houses of memory, carved to resemble domestic interiors, with couches, tables, and walls adorned with murals. The living visit their dead, leaving offerings of food and flowers. There is a comfort in this connection, a sense that love and family extend beyond the threshold of the grave. Above ground, life is equally rich. The Etruscans are exceptional engineers. They carve drainage channels to tame rivers, build bridges of stone, and design city streets in planned grids long before Rome adopts such precision. Their mastery of hydraulics turns marshland into fertile fields, transforming Etruria into one of the most prosperous regions in early Italy. Water, for them, is sacred. It flows not only through the land but through their religion, symbolizing purification and rebirth. In the workshops, bronze glows in the half-light. Artisans shape it into mirrors, lamps, chariots, and jewelry. Each item bears the mark of human hands, yet seems almost alive. The Etruscan bronze mirror, often engraved with mythological scenes, reflects not just the viewer's face but the divine stories of the world itself. Their goldsmiths, too, are legendary. Using intricate techniques like granulation, fusing tiny beads of gold into elaborate patterns, they craft ornaments that rival anything in the ancient Mediterranean. Every bracelet and pendant whispers of refinement, patience, and artistry. The Etruscans' trade networks stretch far and wide. In their harbors, goods from across the known world arrive. Greek pottery, Phoenician glass, Egyptian scarabs, and amber from the Baltic. In return, they export metals, wine, and crafted goods. Etruscan merchants are among the first Italians to master long-distance maritime trade. Their ships, broad and sturdy, sail as far as the coast of southern France and North Africa. This contact brings new ideas, philosophy, myth, and artistic techniques, yet Etruria remains distinct. Everything foreign becomes gently transformed by Etruscan sensibility, softened into their own aesthetic. Their cities are ruled by kings, known as lucumones, each both political leader and religious intermediary. These rulers are not tyrants but stewards of balance, ensuring that divine will and human need align. Some are remembered as wise lawgivers, others as conquerors. Their thrones are symbols not of dominance but of sacred duty. Around them gather nobles, warriors, and priests, forming a society of layered ranks yet woven together by shared ritual and civic pride. The Etruscans valued discipline, family, and devotion, yet they also cherish beauty, music, and sensual joy. Evenings in these cities are calm and golden. The last rays of the sun linger on rooftops of terracotta tile. The hum of day fades into the laughter of families dining in courtyards. Oil lamps flicker, casting long shadows on painted walls. Musicians play flutes and stringed instruments, filling the twilight with soft melody. There is a harmony between stone and sky, between the city's order and the quiet of nature beyond its walls. This is the balance the Etruscans seek in all things, a rhythm between body and spirit, between work and rest, between this world and the next. But this golden age, like all things, exists in motion. Beyond their borders, other powers stir. To the south, the Greek colonies of Magna Graecia grow wealthy and influential, bringing new competition to Etruscan trade. To the north, Celtic tribes move through the Alpine passes. And to the southeast, a small but ambitious city begins to expand, Rome. At first, Rome is an apprentice, learning from its Etruscan neighbors. Its early kings bear Etruscan names, and its temples rise in Etruscan form. But the seeds of change are already planted. For now, however, Etruria stands serene. The people continue their rituals, their cities gleam with vitality, and their ships still sail proudly across the sea. It is a civilization in full bloom, confident, wealthy, and beautifully human. Their contributions to architecture, religion, and urban life will shape Italy for centuries to come, though their own story will one day fade into silence. As we leave the bustling streets of Tarquinia and drift above the shimmering coastline once more, the sound of waves mingles with the faint echo of flutes. The lights of the city flicker like stars below. The Etruscans sleep beneath their painted tombs, unaware that their memory will one day lie beneath the stones of Rome itself. Yet in this quiet moment, suspended in the stillness of history, they live again, a people of grace, faith, and enduring mystery. And as our thoughts drift toward the next chapter, we carry with us the warmth of their cities, places of art and devotion, built by hands that believed even the simplest act could touch the divine. The night air grows heavier as we glide gently forward in time. The hills of Etruria still gleam beneath the moonlight, but far to the south, a new light begins to flicker, a restless flame rising from the banks of the Tiber River. The small settlement of Rome, once a cluster of shepherd huts, now stirs awake, drawn into the orbit of its powerful northern neighbors, the Etruscans. This meeting of cultures, quiet at first, will shape the destiny of Italy and the Western world. In these early centuries, the line between Etruscan and Roman is not as sharp as it may seem. Trade routes connect them, carrying not only goods but ideas. The Etruscans, with their advanced urban planning, engineering, and spiritual traditions, leave deep imprints on Rome's emerging identity. The Romans, still learning to organize and build, look northward for inspiration. Step by step, under Etruscan guidance, a simple pastoral town begins its transformation into a city of stone. Imagine the Tiber plain in the 7th century BCE. The river winds lazily through fields of tall grass and wildflowers. Smoke rises from distant hearths. On one side of the river lies the Capitoline Hill, its slopes crowned by a sacred grove. To the north, the Etruscan city of Veii watches like a guardian from across the valley. Between them, the exchange of goods and culture flows freely, bronze tools, pottery, grain, and stories of the gods. It is a quiet merging, one that will soon become a shared destiny. The first great transformation comes with architecture. The Etruscans teach the Romans how to build using durable materials: stone foundations, terracotta roofs, and wooden beams. The old huts of thatched straw slowly give way to organized layouts and paved roads. The Etruscans introduced the concept of the city as a sacred design, planned in harmony with the heavens. Each city is aligned with the cardinal directions, its streets and temples positioned according to divine patterns known through augury. In this belief, architecture itself becomes a prayer, a way of bringing human order into alignment with cosmic law. In Rome, This sacred geometry takes shape most dramatically on the Capitoline Hill, where the Etruscan kings erect the temple of Jupiter Optimus Maximus. Dedicated to Jupiter, Juno, and Minerva, the Roman versions of the Etruscan Tinia, Uni, and Minerva, this temple becomes the heart of Rome's religion and the symbol of its divine favor. Built with Etruscan craftsmanship, its massive podium, triple cella, and deep porch mirror the great temples of Tarquinia and Veii. When it is completed, its gilded terracotta statues gleam like embers in the sun, and the people of Rome gaze upward in awe. The Etruscans have given Rome not only a temple but a sense of destiny. At this time, Rome is ruled by a line of kings, many of whom are believed to be Etruscan. Among them are Tarquinius Priscus, the elder Tarquin, who is said to have laid the foundations of Rome's infrastructure, and Servius Tullius, remembered for his reforms and walls. The last of the line, Tarquinius Superbus, Tarquin the Proud, will one day bring down the monarchy, but before that, these kings shaped the city into a reflection of Etruscan grandeur. Under their rule, the Romans construct monumental works. The Cloaca Maxima, a vast drainage system that channels the waters of the Tiber's marshes, remains one of the oldest engineering feats still in use today. They build forums, bridges, and city walls, all modeled after Etruscan designs. Even the earliest Roman triumphs, the parades celebrating military victory, have Etruscan origins, echoing the rituals of the Lucumones who once processed in their chariots beneath bronze trumpets. The influence extends beyond architecture. The Etruscans bring to Rome their symbols of power: the fasces, a bundle of rods bound around an axe representing authority and unity; the curule chair, seat of magistrates; the purple toga, a garment of royal dignity. Each of these emblems, later adopted by the Republic and the Empire, carries the imprint of Etruscan ceremony. To the Romans, these objects embody discipline and divine sanction, reminders that governance is both earthly duty and sacred trust. As the cities intertwine, so do their myths. The Romans adopt and adapt the stories of the Etruscan and Greek worlds, weaving them into their own tapestry. Deities change names but not essence. Tinia becomes Jupiter, Minerva becomes Minerva, Turan becomes Venus. The Etruscan practice of reading omens and interpreting lightning becomes an integral part of Roman state religion. Priests known as augurs and haruspices continue to observe the skies, ensuring that Rome's every act, from battle to building, remains under the guidance of the gods. Yet the bond between Rome and Etruria is not merely cultural, it is deeply personal. Many Etruscan artisans, builders, and nobles settle in Rome, bringing with them their skills and customs. Marriages between the two peoples intertwine their bloodlines. Roman elites learn Etruscan etiquette: the reclining banquets, the use of silver utensils, the appreciation for music and dance. To walk through early Rome is to glimpse Etruria reborn, its architecture, art, and spirituality gently adapted to a new setting. And yet, beneath the harmony, tension brews. The Etruscan kings, particularly Tarquinius Superbus, rule with increasing arrogance. His ambitious projects and heavy taxation breed resentment among the Roman populace. The story of his downfall, preserved in Roman legend, is dramatic. His son's crime against Lucretia, a noble woman of virtue, ignites the fury of the people. The monarchy collapses, and in its place rises the Roman Republic. But even in rebellion, Rome cannot entirely sever its connection to Etruria. The new republic inherits much from its former rulers: their rituals, architecture, and the very symbols of state power. As Rome's independence grows, so too does its ambition. The city begins to challenge its former mentors, pushing northward into Etruscan lands. The relationship of student and teacher shifts into rivalry. Battles flare between Rome and the Etruscan city of Veii, whose wealth and proximity make it both neighbor and threat. For centuries their struggle continues, marked by uneasy truces and renewed wars. During this time, Etruria begins to change. The city-states, once prosperous and united by shared ritual, face growing external pressures. To the north, Celtic tribes sweep down through the Alpine passes, raiding and settling in fertile valleys. To the south, the Greek colonies expand their trade dominance. The balance of the Mediterranean shifts, and the Etruscans, once masters of the sea, find themselves challenged on every front. Yet even in this period of tension, their artistry does not fade. The Etruscan sculptors continue to create masterpieces, serene terracotta sarcophagi, bronze statues, and exquisite jewelry. Their art reflects a changing spirit, more introspective, more aware of fate. The faces of their sculptures seem to gaze beyond the present, as if sensing the coming transformation of their world. Let your mind drift now to one of these fading cities, perhaps Veii, poised on its volcanic ridge, surrounded by vineyards and oak forests. The air is quiet, but beneath the calm lies a feeling of foreboding. Across the river, the banners of Rome begin to rise. The siege of Veii, a decade-long struggle, will mark the turning point between Etruscan power and Roman destiny. According to Roman accounts, when Veii finally falls in 396 BCE, the conquerors plunder its wealth, but they also carry away its culture. From this moment on, the spirit of Etruria begins to merge completely into the identity of Rome. And yet, not all is lost. The Romans, perhaps unknowingly, preserve much of what they conquer. The layout of their cities, the design of their temples, the structure of their government, all bear the imprint of Etruria. Even the Roman alphabet descends from the Etruscan adaptation of Greek letters. Their influence becomes invisible yet immortal, woven into the very DNA of the civilization that follows. As we drift deeper into the stillness of this ancient night, imagine the flickering lamps of Rome and Etruria both glowing in the dark. The river winds between them like a silver thread, binding their destinies together. The Etruscans, with their deep reverence for divine order, have taught the Romans how to read the signs of the world, how to turn landscape into city, ritual into law, belief into empire. The students will one day outshine the masters, but the memory of those who taught them will linger like the faint scent of incense after a ritual's end. Let your breathing slow as we linger here, suspended between two civilizations. The hum of ancient Rome echoes softly, the footsteps of builders, the murmur of prayers to Jupiter, the distant sound of hammers striking bronze. And somewhere beyond the horizon, the voices of Etruria fade into song, carried on the wind across time. Their story is far from over, it simply changes form, living on through the empire that will one day inherit their wisdom. And as we prepare to drift into the next chapter, the lesson of this union becomes clear, that no culture truly vanishes. Like the stars reflected upon the surface of a river, the Etruscans live on, shimmering, distant, but eternal. The night deepens over Etruria. The once vibrant cities that gleamed with bronze and sang with music now rest in a hushed stillness. In the dim light of ancient hearths, elders whisper of changing times, of shifting winds from beyond the mountains and the sea. This is the age of decline and transformation, a slow fading of Etruscan independence, not into silence but into legacy. The centuries that follow will test their endurance, reshape their beliefs, and ultimately fold their story into the larger narrative of Rome and the Mediterranean world. It begins quietly, almost imperceptibly, in the 5th century BCE. The grand cities of Tarquinia, Veii, Cerveteri, and Volterra still prosper, their artisans still carve, their priests still read the will of the gods. But outside their walls, new powers rise. To the north, the Celts, fierce and mobile, descend from the Alps, pressing into the fertile plains of northern Italy. To the south, the Greeks dominate maritime trade, their colonies along the coast of Magna Graecia thriving under the sun. Between them, the Etruscans find their world tightening, their influence slowly eroding. For generations, the Etruscans had ruled the seas. Their ships, fast and wide-bellied, once carried goods from Sardinia to Carthage, from Corsica to Campania. They had traded amber from the Baltic, wine from their own hills, and fine pottery painted with myth and mystery. But now the Greek fleets challenge their dominance, and Carthage, their sometime ally, grows more ambitious. The old sea routes begin to slip from Etruscan control, and with them, the lifeblood of their economy. Yet decline does not come with sudden violence. It comes softly, like the fading of daylight. Trade contracts, markets quiet, and the workshops once filled with the hum of artisans begin to empty. Bronze mirrors still gleam, but fewer hands polish them. Tombs are still carved, but their grandeur lessens. The wealthy families who once commissioned elaborate burial chambers now build simpler ones, painted with scenes not of triumph but of farewell, gentle banquets, tender embraces, the soul's calm departure toward the afterlife. Imagine the necropolis of Tarquinia during this time, the city of the dead, lying just beyond the city walls. The tombs descend underground, cool and shadowed, their walls alive with color. In the light of flickering oil lamps, you see dancers frozen mid-motion, musicians with lyres and flutes, feasts laid out for eternity. But look closer and you notice something new. The expressions of the painted figures soften, their gestures slower, more reflective. The art still celebrates life, but it now carries a tone of longing. It is as if the Etruscans know that their time in the sun is passing, and their artists, ever truthful, record that awareness with grace. Meanwhile, Rome grows stronger. The Republic, young but disciplined, expands its borders, absorbing former allies and rivals alike. The Etruscan city of Veii, after years of siege, falls to Rome in 396 BCE, a symbolic victory that marks the turning tide. With Veii's fall, the boundary between Roman and Etruscan worlds begins to blur. The conquerors admire the conquered. They adopt Etruscan customs even as they dismantle their autonomy. The Romans carry away treasures, but they also carry away ideas, city planning, religious rituals, and architectural methods that will form the foundation of their empire. Still, the Etruscans persist. They do not vanish after a single defeat. For nearly 2 more centuries they endure, adapting quietly to Rome's growing power. Their cities become allies or subjects, their soldiers serve in Roman armies, and their artisans contribute to Roman building projects. It is a period of coexistence, uneasy but fertile. The Etruscans begin to speak Latin more often than their own tongue, yet their accents, their art, and their sense of ceremony remain distinct. Their temples still rise on high podiums. Their priests still consult the heavens before each decision. Even as history turns, their spiritual world refuses to die. Religion remains the soul of Etruscan identity. In times of uncertainty they turn more deeply to the divine. The priests known as haruspices, trained from childhood in sacred texts, study the livers of sacrificed animals, seeking messages in the folds and markings. Their craft, once mysterious to outsiders, becomes highly valued even in Rome. Roman generals and senators summon Etruscan seers before battles, before the founding of colonies, before the dedication of temples. The Etruscans in this way retain a quiet authority, spiritual guides to the rising superpower that will inherit their lands. Their books of prophecy, known as the Libri Haruspicini and Libri Fulgurales, detail the rules of divination, the interpretation of lightning, and the rhythms of the cosmos. Few of these survive into later centuries, but Roman writers speak of them with awe. They describe the Etruscans as a people uniquely attuned to the will of the gods, seeing the universe as a living map of signs. This worldview, patient and cyclical, contrasts with the linear ambition of Rome. It is perhaps this difference, between a culture that listens and one that conquers, that defines their final centuries. By the 3rd century BCE, the independence of Etruscan cities fades into memory. One by one they fall under Roman rule. Yet Rome, in absorbing them, absorbs also their artistry, their symbols, and their reverence for ritual. The Roman toga praetexta, bordered with purple, comes from Etruscan ceremonial dress. The lictors carrying fasces before magistrates, an Etruscan emblem of power, become fixtures of Roman political life. Even the arch, a defining feature of Roman architecture, finds its prototype in Etruscan city gates and tombs. The Etruscans, though subdued, live on through Rome's splendor. Let us drift now to the city of Volterra, perched high in the Tuscan hills. It remains one of the last strongholds of Etruscan culture, surrounded by thick walls of volcanic stone. Here, artisans continue to carve alabaster urns for the dead, their lids shaped with serene faces that seem to dream. The countryside around Volterra glows with fields of wheat and olive trees. Life goes on, quieter, simpler, but not extinguished. The Etruscans accept change as part of the natural order, and in this acceptance lies their dignity. As Rome extends its control, Etruscan lands transform. Roads are built, connecting towns once separated by forests and hills. Latin replaces the Etruscan language in daily use. Yet traces remain, in place names, in rural rituals, in the shapes of sanctuaries hidden in the countryside. In these quiet corners the old gods still linger: Tinia, the sky father; Uni, the protector of women; Minerva, the goddess of wisdom. Their names fade from memory, but their essence continues under Roman titles. Jupiter, Juno, Minerva, the same divine triad reborn. In the 2nd century BCE, as Rome becomes a Mediterranean empire, Etruria becomes a province of peace and prosperity. Its cities, now Romanized, provide scholars, architects, and soldiers to the Republic. Wealthy Romans build villas among the Etruscan hills, drawn by the beauty of the landscape, its gentle slopes, cypress groves, and golden light. The land that once birthed a civilization now becomes the garden of another. The rhythm of life slows, the boundaries between cultures dissolve. And still, beneath the soil, the Etruscans speak. Every plow that turns the earth reveals fragments of their world: shards of pottery, bronze mirrors, delicate jewelry, carved inscriptions in their strange, looping alphabet. Each find tells a story of refinement, of joy and reverence, of a people who saw the divine in every natural form. The archaeologists of later centuries will marvel at this quiet sophistication. But for now, as the ancient world turns toward Rome, the Etruscans themselves seem to retreat gracefully, allowing their legacy to be carried forward by others. It is here, in this twilight of their independence, that we see the true character of the Etruscans. They do not vanish in defeat, they transform. Their identity, once bound to city walls and sea trade, becomes part of the deeper fabric of Italy. Their art continues in Roman frescoes, their rituals in Roman temples, their wisdom in Roman law. The transformation is not one of erasure, but of blending, a merging so complete that, centuries later, scholars will still trace the outlines of Etruscan thought within the grandeur of Rome. As we drift toward the close of this chapter, imagine standing upon the walls of Tarquinia, looking out across the Tuscan plain at sunset. The air is heavy with the scent of thyme and sea salt. The hills are veiled in gold. Below, the tombs of ancestors lie hidden beneath the grass, their painted walls untouched by time. In this moment, the living and the dead share the same horizon. The Etruscans, who once charted the heavens to understand their fate, now become part of the eternal rhythm they so deeply revered. The historian's mind may mark this period as decline, but perhaps it is better seen as transformation, a gentle passage from one form to another. The Etruscans, who built their cities according to divine order, now find that order fulfilled in a different way. Their story becomes Rome's story, their voice becomes Rome's voice. They fade not into darkness but into continuity. Let this thought cradle you as you drift toward sleep, that every civilization, like every human life, finds its peace not in conquest or power, but in the quiet endurance of its spirit. The Etruscans teach us that beauty, belief, and balance endure beyond walls and wars, that even as empires rise and fall, the echo of wisdom remains. The winds move softly over the hills of ancient Etruria. The temples may crumble, the cities may fade, but the rhythm of their world, patient, harmonious, eternal, continues to hum beneath the earth. And in that whisper of history the Etruscans still live, still guiding us, still dreaming under the same Italian sky. The night has deepened over Etruria, and a soft mist settles upon the valleys and ridges that once echoed with laughter, prayer, and the clang of bronze. The cities of the Etruscans now lie quiet, their stones weathered by centuries, their temples worn smooth by the passing of time. Yet beneath the earth their world endures. In the silence below, among painted walls and carved sarcophagi, the Etruscans still speak. Their story is one of endurance, not in power or empire, but in memory, artistry, and the patient whispers of the soil. To understand their legacy, we must descend gently, down through layers of earth and time, into the tombs that the Etruscans built with such care. These are no dark chambers of despair, they are homes for eternity. The Etruscans believed that death was not an end, but a continuation of life in another realm, and so they prepared their dead with the same devotion they gave to the living. Each tomb was a reflection of daily existence, carved and painted to resemble the houses above ground, complete with doors, beams and furniture. The deceased were not abandoned, they were simply moving into another home, surrounded by the objects and images that had shaped their earthly days. In the necropolis of Cerveteri, the city of the dead, the tombs stretch like streets, their rounded mounds rising gently from the grass. Enter one of these tombs and the air cools instantly. The walls curve softly inward, carved from volcanic tufa stone. Here, on stone benches, the dead rest in pairs, husband and wife, parent and child, their features captured in lifelike terracotta effigies. Their smiles are serene, not mournful. They seem to gaze beyond time, as though they know their story continues through every eye that looks upon them. One of the most famous of these is the sarcophagus of the spouses, found at Cerveteri. It shows a man and woman reclining side by side on a banquet couch, their bodies gracefully curved, their hands once holding small offerings. Their faces are calm, affectionate, filled with warmth and humanity. Unlike the rigid portraits of later Roman art, the Etruscan couple appear alive, mid-conversation, perhaps sharing a gentle joke or memory. In their presence, the distance between past and present vanishes. We are reminded that these people who lived thousands of years ago, loved and laughed as we do. The art that fills these tombs is vivid and human. In the tomb of the leopards at Tarquinia, leaping felines guard the entrance while dancers whirl to the rhythm of unseen music. Musicians play flutes and castanets, servants bring wine, friends raise cups in celebration. These are not scenes of mourning, they are tributes to the joy of life itself. The Etruscans saw the afterlife as a continuation of earthly pleasures, and so they filled their tombs with color, motion, and warmth. Even in death they refused darkness. They believed the soul's journey should begin surrounded by beauty. Above ground, their artistic skill transformed the landscape as well. The Etruscans were master metal workers, shaping bronze and gold with unmatched precision. Their mirrors, jewelry, and ceremonial vessels reveal a world of intricate design, delicate filigree, fine engraving, and mythological scenes alive with detail. Their artisans blended influences from Greece and the Near East, yet their work retained a distinct softness, a preference for curve over line, for humanity over perfection. Even their warriors and deities possess a sense of calm grace. Their cities too were works of art. Though little remains today, the Etruscans built towns in harmony with the natural landscape, not dominating the hills but following their contours. Their streets aligned with celestial patterns, their temples oriented toward sunrise or the flight of birds. This attention to divine geometry reveals a civilization deeply attuned to both earth and sky. They believed that to build was a sacred act, an imitation of cosmic order. Each wall and roof was a gesture of reverence toward the gods who governed fate. As Rome rose to supremacy, it inherited these sensibilities. The Roman concept of augury, the interpretation of signs and omens, came directly from Etruscan tradition. The design of Roman temples, the high podium, the deep porch, the triadic form, followed Etruscan models. Even the famous Roman arch, symbol of strength and endurance, first appeared in Etruscan gateways such as those at Perugia and Volterra. What Rome claimed as its own often had roots in Etruscan soil. Their genius became the unseen foundation of empire. But beyond architecture and art, the Etruscans left a subtler, deeper inheritance, one of worldview. They believed the universe was a living system governed by divine will, and that every event, every storm, every pattern of lightning carried meaning. To them, life was not random, it was woven into a cosmic fabric that humans could read and interpret. This sense of interconnectedness, of destiny written in the natural world, would influence Roman religion, Stoic philosophy, and even the later Christian idea of providence. The Etruscans, in their quiet way, taught the West to listen to the language of the universe. And yet, their own language, the Etruscan tongue, would eventually fall silent. Written in graceful, looping letters derived from Greek, it once filled tomb inscriptions, mirrors, and votive offerings. Only fragments survive today, dedications to gods, family names, brief phrases of remembrance. Despite centuries of study, much of it remains a mystery. Linguists can read the letters but not always the meaning, as if the Etruscans still guard some secret wisdom beneath the earth. Their language seems to hum faintly, just beyond comprehension, a reminder that not all knowledge is meant to be recovered, and that some beauty lies in mystery itself. As centuries pass, the tombs become buried deeper, their entrances forgotten. Grass and trees reclaim the mounds, villages rise above them, and the Etruscans slip quietly into myth. When medieval travelers stumble upon these strange underground chambers, they call them devil's houses, unable to imagine the civilization that created them. It is not until the 19th century, when archaeology awakens as a science, that the world begins to rediscover Etruria. The first excavations at Tarquinia and Veii reveal a civilization of astonishing sophistication, neither wholly Greek nor Roman, but uniquely itself. The scholars and artists of that era are captivated. They speak of the Etruscans as the mystery people, a vanished culture whose traces whisper from painted walls and golden ornaments. Their discoveries reshape the understanding of Italy's ancient past, revealing that Rome, for all its power, stands on Etruscan foundations. Museums fill with artifacts, mirrors reflecting ancient faces, urns inscribed with forgotten names, bronze statuettes that still seem to breathe. The Etruscans, once silent, speak again through the language of art. As we linger in this world beneath the earth, the sense of continuity becomes clear. The Etruscans did not vanish, they became part of the living landscape of Italy. Their cities gave rise to modern towns, Tarquinia, Volterra, Perugia, Orvieto, where their stones still form the foundations of streets and homes. The fields they cultivated remain fertile, the hills they revered still catch the golden light of evening. Their spirit endures in the rhythm of the land itself. Imagine walking through modern Tuscany at dusk. The cypress trees stand tall against the fading sky. In the distance, bells echo from a hilltop village. Beneath your feet, unseen but ever present, lie the chambers of the ancient dead, their paintings intact, their smiles undimmed. The wind that stirs the olive branches carries with it the same scent of thyme and sea salt that the Etruscans once knew. Time folds in on itself, the past and present breathe the same air. There is something profoundly peaceful in this continuity, the sense that civilizations, like people, never truly disappear. They transform, dissolve, and merge into new forms of being. The Etruscans, who lived in harmony with both earth and sky, understood this. They saw life as a cycle of return, a rhythm of birth, death, and renewal. Their tombs are not symbols of loss but of belonging, a return to the earth that nourished them, a reunion with the divine order they so carefully observed. As the centuries rolled on, Rome itself would experience the same truth. Empires rise and fall, but the memory of the Etruscans reminds us that what endures is not dominion, but wisdom, not power, but presence. Their legacy is found not in monuments alone, but in the quiet understanding that every human act, from building a city to carving a figure in clay, participates in the eternal dance of creation. Let your thoughts drift now to that quiet underworld where the Etruscans rest. Picture the glow of a single oil lamp flickering against painted walls, casting shadows of dancers and musicians. The air smells faintly of earth and olive oil. In that tranquil space, time stands still. The spirits of the Etruscans are not restless. They are content, watching over their descendants, whispering through the rustle of the Tuscan wind. They have achieved what every civilization seeks, a kind of immortality not through conquest but through beauty and remembrance. As we prepare to leave this chapter, hold this image gently in your mind, a people who built their world in harmony with nature, who honored the divine in every shape and season, and who faced the end not with fear but with grace. Beneath the earth, their story continues, serene, eternal, and alive. Breathe softly now. The hills of Etruria fade into mist once more. The stars will slowly overhead, the same stars the Etruscans once charted to guide their lives. Their legacy remains beneath our feet and within our hearts, a quiet presence reminding us that beauty, once made, never dies. As the final embers of Etruscan civilization fade into the calm night of history, we drift gently into the centuries where their proud cities fall quiet, their language grows faint, and their stories become whispers beneath the Roman sky. This is the twilight of the Etruscans, a time not of sudden destruction, but of gradual blending, when an ancient identity dissolves softly into the tide of empire. The world has changed. By the late 4th century BCE, the once powerful Etruscan League faces increasing pressure from a young, assertive neighbor to the south, Rome. The Romans, who once looked north with admiration and envy, now turn their disciplined legions toward conquest. Yet conquest here is not just military, it is cultural. The Romans do not simply destroy, they absorb, they imitate, and they transform. Cities like Veii, Tarquinia, and Clusium, which once rivaled Rome in art, trade, and architecture, gradually fall under Roman influence. Some through siege and defeat, others through alliances and treaties. The process is slow, like a coastline being reshaped by centuries of tide. The Etruscan people continue to farm their lands, build their temples, and bury their dead according to their old customs, but Roman presence grows quietly in their streets. The Etruscan kings had once ruled over Rome itself, centuries earlier. Ironically, now the descendants of those Romans return to rule over the Etruscans. Yet within this exchange lies one of the greatest paradoxes of history. While the Etruscans disappear as a political power, their culture takes deep root within the very civilization that replaces them. As we wander through this twilight landscape, we see Roman architecture rising upon Etruscan foundations. The great stone archways, the curving vaults, the engineering mastery that defines Roman cities, all trace back to Etruscan ingenuity. Even the Roman toga, that symbol of citizenship and authority, has Etruscan origins. The Romans inherit their religious systems too, the rituals of divination, the consultation of omens, the reading of lightning in the sky, all passed down from Etruscan priests who once served their own gods beneath the same Italian sun. In the Roman Senate, the Etruscan influence lingers. Words like templum and augur come from their language, and so too do ideas about how cities align with the cosmos. The Etruscans believed that every settlement was a reflection of divine order, divided according to the will of the gods. The Romans carry this forward, so that even as they build their empire across continents, they still echo the sacred geometry first laid down by Etruscan hands. But what of the Etruscan people themselves? Did they vanish or did they simply become Roman? The truth, as with so many ancient stories, lies somewhere in between. In many regions, the Etruscan identity lingers for generations. Inscriptions continue in their language well into the 1st century BCE. Family names, carved into stone and recorded by Roman scribes, retain their Etruscan rhythm, soft, lyrical, unlike the sharp cadence of Latin. We find evidence of quiet persistence. Etruscan artisans still craft jewelry and pottery in their old styles. Local festivals continue to honor ancient deities, though now they are renamed and woven into Roman myth. The goddess Uni becomes Juno, Tinia becomes Jupiter, and the boundaries between pantheons dissolve into one continuous sky. As centuries pass, the Etruscan language, once inscribed on bronze mirrors, tablets, and tomb walls, begins to fade. By the time of the Roman historian Livy, few can still read it. By the era of Emperor Claudius, the emperor himself takes interest in reviving it, studying Etruscan texts and compiling a history of the Etruscan people. His work, tragically, does not survive. What remains are fragments, words on funerary stelae, scattered across the Tuscan hillsides, each one a whisper from the deep past. Let us imagine for a moment, standing among those quiet ruins at dusk. The wind moves through the cypress trees, carrying the faint scent of the Mediterranean earth. Beneath your feet, layers of soil conceal centuries of Etruscan life, homes, workshops, temples, all once vibrant with sound and color. Now only fragments remain, a carved statue, a painted urn, a bronze clasp that once held a robe. Yet from these silent relics, a whole civilization breathes again in the imagination. The Etruscans leave us more than artifacts. They give us a vision of how beauty and belief intertwine. Their tombs, far from being places of sorrow, are vibrant homes for the dead, painted with scenes of banquets, music, and dance. These murals remind us that for the Etruscans, death was not an ending, but a continuation of life's joy in another form. This serenity echoes perfectly in our quiet reflection tonight, as we drift between waking and sleep. Their legacy, though hidden, becomes the hidden architecture of the Western world. When we walk beneath Roman arches, study Renaissance art in Florence, or listen to the Italian language flow like music, we are still, in some sense, hearing the echo of Etruria. For Tuscany, modern successor to ancient Etruria, preserves even the name of that lost people. The hills, the vineyards, the soft golden light, they all carry a trace of the civilization that came before Rome, and yet helped shape it. So as we bring this story to rest, we do not mourn the Etruscans. Rather, we honor the quiet way they endure, woven invisibly into the fabric of history. Their wisdom survives in symbols, their artistry in stone, and their spirit in the eternal landscapes of central Italy. If you close your eyes now, you might imagine yourself drifting above those rolling Tuscan fields, where the past and present blur in the golden haze of evening. Somewhere below, a buried city sleeps, its walls long crumbled, its streets reclaimed by earth and roots. Yet in the stillness, you can almost hear a faint rhythm, the sound of flutes and laughter, the echoes of a people who once saw life and death not as opposites, but as partners in a sacred dance. In the hush that follows, the Etruscans seem to whisper once more, not in conquest or empire but in continuity. Their story reminds us that civilizations may fade, but the traces they leave behind can become the foundations of all that follows. Rome, for all its power, stands not in isolation, but upon Etruscan stone. And so, as you drift now into your own night of dreams, remember that the world is layered with forgotten lives, each one contributing to the great unfolding story of humankind. The Etruscans were never truly lost. They are part of you, of all of us, in the words we speak, the art we cherish, and the way we seek meaning in the mystery of existence. Rest gently, knowing that even the quietest civilizations continue to resonate softly through time. As the night deepens over the rolling hills and fertile plains of central Italy, we pause to consider the quiet, enduring imprint of the Etruscans. Their cities may have fallen to Roman legions, their political autonomy dissolved, yet the echoes of their civilization reverberate through centuries in ways subtle and profound. It is in art, religion, architecture, and daily life that we see the lasting fingerprints of this remarkable people. As we drift through these layers of time, we begin to understand the Etruscans not only as builders of cities and tombs, but as quiet architects of culture itself. The first and perhaps most visible aspect of their legacy is architecture. The Etruscans were pioneers in the use of the arch, the vault, and the drainage system, tools that would define Roman engineering for millennia. In Etruscan cities like Volterra, Perugia, and Cerveteri, remnants of stone gates, fortified walls, and subterranean drains still speak of their ingenuity. The famous Cloaca Maxima of Rome, one of the world's earliest sewage systems, was inspired by Etruscan precedents. Imagine the laborers and engineers chiseling stone, carving channels for water to flow, ensuring the cities would endure. In the soft evening light, the arches cast long shadows across ancient cobblestones, whispering lessons of balance, stability, and foresight. Their temples too leave a lasting mark. Unlike the more austere Greek temples, Etruscan temples are raised on high podiums, adorned with deep porches and statues that gleam in terracotta. These structures are more than buildings. They are statements of belief and artistry, intended to honor gods and align the city with the cosmos. The Romans would adopt these designs wholesale, incorporating Etruscan aesthetics into the very heart of the capital and other civic centers. Even today, when we gaze at the ruins of Roman temples, we are glimpsing the shadows of Etruscan architects' visions, reverberating through centuries. The Etruscans' influence on urban planning is equally remarkable. They often laid out their cities according to cardinal directions, creating orthogonal streets that intersect at right angles, a practice called the Hippodamian grid, though the Etruscans applied it with their own religious sensibilities. Central forums, sacred temples, and civic spaces were deliberately positioned, reflecting their belief that urban spaces should mirror cosmic order. The Romans, inheriting these designs, extended them across the Mediterranean, ensuring that the influence of Etruscan planning persisted long after the cities themselves had lost independence. Art, too, captures the Etruscans' enduring spirit. Their funerary sculptures, frescoes, and metalwork reveal a fascination with both the human form and the divine. The famed sarcophagus of the spouses portrays a couple in intimate repose, emphasizing affection, humanity, and social harmony. Tombs like the Tomb of the Leopards and the Tomb of the Augurs depict dances, feasts, and musical performances, offering a window into daily life and ritual. Even as political power waned, these expressions of life, joy, and continuity ensured that the Etruscans' aesthetic sensibility remained vivid in memory and in stone. Jewelry, mirrors, and bronze vessels further reflect their artistry and technical skill. The mirrors, in particular, often feature intricate incised scenes of mythology, social interaction, or religious practice, providing both functional and symbolic value. These items were prized not only for their beauty but for their role in ritual and commemoration, reminding the living of their connection to ancestors and gods. Through these objects, the Etruscans communicated across time, their stories preserved for future generations. Beyond the tangible, the Etruscans' impact on religion is profound. Their interpretation of divine will influence Roman religion in ways that persist in historical memory. They read omens, interpreted lightning, and practiced haruspicy, examining animal entrails for messages from the gods. The role of augurs, who observed bird flight patterns to guide civic and military decisions, was inherited by Rome directly from Etruscan precedent. These practices reinforced the belief that the cosmos was intelligible, that the future could be understood, and that human action was intertwined with divine will. Their pantheon too left a mark. While Etruscan deities were often renamed under Roman rule, Tinia becoming Jupiter, Uni becoming Juno, Minerva becoming Minerva, their characteristics and domains remained intact. The Etruscans emphasized divine intervention in everyday life, and their religious rituals reinforced social cohesion, moral responsibility, and reverence for cosmic order. In Rome, these deities and rituals shaped not only civic religion but cultural identity, underscoring the profound continuity of belief systems. Language is another subtle channel of influence. Though the Etruscan language largely vanished, traces survive in inscriptions, tomb dedications, and Roman adaptations of their alphabet. Many Latin letters, particularly those used for sacred and public purposes, were borrowed from Etruscan script, illustrating a cultural bridge between the two civilizations. Even today, scholars attempt to decipher their texts, revealing glimpses of grammar, poetry, and sacred formulas. The Etruscans, it seems, continue to speak softly through the ages, inviting us to listen carefully to their legacy. Beyond art, architecture, and religion, the Etruscans influenced social and political organization. Elements of Roman governance, including symbols of authority like the fasces, bundles of rods with axes, and the curule chair, derive from Etruscan precedent. These symbols conveyed power and justice, reminding citizens that governance carried both secular and divine obligations. The concept of civic responsibility, the ceremonial functions of magistrates, and the formal structures of government all bear an Etruscan imprint, shaping Roman society and, ultimately, Western civilization. Daily life, too, carries traces of their influence. The Etruscans were known for their banquets, music, and appreciation of leisure and refinement. Romans adopted these practices, integrating Etruscan-style reclining feasts into their social rituals, along with decorative arts and domestic layouts. Even culinary traditions, though not fully preserved in written form, reflect shared tastes and techniques. In these quiet, personal aspects of life, the Etruscan worldview subtly endured, shaping human experience in ways that are difficult to quantify but impossible to ignore. The landscape itself retains Etruscan memory. Their settlements, often perched upon hills for defense and visibility, harmonize with the natural terrain. Olive groves, vineyards, and terraced fields in Tuscany echo agricultural practices refined over centuries. The way the Etruscans read the land, its fertility, its topography, its alignment with celestial patterns, continues to inform regional planning and cultural identity even in modern Italy. Walking these hills today, one can almost sense the ghosts of their cities, their devotion to both earth and sky. Consider, too, the human dimension. The Etruscans celebrated family, community, and continuity. Their tombs often commemorate extended families, reflecting bonds of kinship and mutual obligation. Their art shows men and women together in dance, conversation, and ritual, emphasizing social harmony and balance. These values were absorbed by Rome and transmitted through generations, creating a framework for the civic, familial, and ethical life of the Western world. Even in decline, the Etruscans shaped history by persistence rather than conquest. They demonstrate that influence does not require dominance. It can be quiet, subtle, and enduring. Rome itself is a living testament to this truth, built upon Etruscan foundations in stone, belief, and practice. The civilization that would shape Europe, North Africa, and the Near East carries within it the imprint of a people whose names are almost forgotten, yet whose spirit endures in countless ways. As we drift further into this reflection, let us imagine the countryside at dusk, where ancient tombs lie beneath soft grass, cypress trees sway in the breeze, and the hills catch the warm glow of the setting sun. The air carries a faint scent of thyme and wildflowers, just as it did for the Etruscans centuries ago. In the quiet, one can almost hear the distant laughter of banquets, the soft strum of lyres, the hushed words of priests interpreting the will of the gods. The civilization that shaped Rome, though no longer politically independent, still lives in these small, enduring moments. We can also sense their influence in ceramic art and metallurgy. Fine painted vases, intricately detailed bronze mirrors, and jewelry continue to inspire admiration and imitation. These objects are not mere decoration, they are tangible expressions of a worldview, a careful attention to balance, beauty, and narrative. They remind us that the Etruscans saw life as interconnected with art, and that even small, everyday objects could carry meaning, joy, and reverence. In modern times, archaeology has brought these lessons vividly to light. Excavations in Tarquinia, Veii, and Volterra reveal streets, tombs, and workshops frozen in time, offering insights into urban planning, craftsmanship, and social life. Scholars pore over inscriptions and artifacts, reconstructing rituals, artistic techniques, and even glimpses of music and ceremony. Each discovery underscores the resilience of Etruscan influence and the quiet genius of a civilization that taught Rome, and through Rome, the world. Finally, in contemplating their legacy, we see a profound lesson in continuity through subtlety. The Etruscans did not conquer empires. They shaped them quietly, invisibly, from foundations both literal and symbolic. Their influence endures not in monuments bearing their names, but in practices, beliefs, and aesthetics woven into the fabric of Western civilization. Their story reminds us that the most enduring legacies are often those transmitted through culture, thought, and creativity rather than force. And as we prepare to drift from this chapter, let us close our eyes and imagine a hilltop at twilight. The sky glows with the last soft light of day. The wind stirs olive trees and cypress, carrying whispers of music and ceremony from centuries past. Beneath the soil, tombs hold the quiet presence of those who lived, loved, and dreamed here long before Rome rose to power. Their beauty, their wisdom, and their calm reverence for life endure, gently guiding us even now. The Etruscans, though silent in many ways, continue to speak through art, architecture, ritual, and the landscape itself. Their civilization teaches us patience, balance, and harmony with the world. As we let these thoughts wash over us, we feel the soft continuity of history, a gentle rhythm carrying us toward rest. In this way, the Etruscans are still with us, beneath our feet, in our cities, in the lines of letters, in the echoes of art and ritual. Their story is quiet, profound, and eternal, like the slow turning of the Tuscan hills under the light of the moon.